Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look and doing an unboxing on the British Berkefeld water filtration system. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we'll be taking a look at a water filtration system. Yeah, not the usual thing you would see on this channel, but still, we have done previously review videos on the Brita filter, which seem pretty popular and you guys seem to enjoy seeing these kind of videos, so I figured we'd take a look at this. We wanted one for the home anyway to clean up our water. We have used Brita in the past, and although they do a reasonably good job and they're extremely popular across the world, they're not that good at actually doing what they're designed to do. Yes, they make the water taste a little bit better and they remove some parts of the nasties which are in the water, but they don't remove as much as you'd like. And if you look at some of the research, you'll see that, in fact, actually, depending on how you actually store your Brita filter, you may actually have more bacteria in it than you did before it came out of the tap. So, yeah, that is definitely something to look into. So during our investigations into finding out what is the best option for home water filtration, which covers most of the bases, so getting rid of things like discolorants, flavours, basically anything that shouldn't be in your water, but also what doesn't cost an absolute fortune and is pretty easy to maintain and actually use, and is almost a kind of DIY project. This has come out as being one of the best options for us here in the UK. Now, if you're in the United States, then you may have seen or heard of the Berkey water filters, which essentially work on a very, very similar principle. And actually, back in the very, very early days, back in the 1800s, when these kind of devices were actually first considered and made, they actually started off as essentially being the same company or the same products. What has happened as time has gone on, different copyrights and patents have come into effect, and the Berkey system has a slightly different filtration system, but they are backwards compatible. So if you buy yourself a British Berkefeld unit, you can, if you want to, use the Berkey filters and vice versa. So there's tons of flexibility, and again, you can configure this to how you want. So if you're using this for just in the home to clean up your tap water, there's a specific filter or filter types you can use for that. If you're out and about traveling, maybe you want to be able to drink from stream water, that kind of thing, there's filters available for that. So there's tons of different sizes, shapes, and configurations you can use to get it just right for you. We will be going into those in greater detail in possibly follow-up videos when we actually get different filters or try new improved options for this particular system. But in this video today, we'll be just going through, doing an unboxing, see how it all goes together, check out how long it takes to actually filter the water, see what the taste is like, and then come back with my final thoughts at the very end. So this might be quite a long video. There will be a waiting time in between the water going in and the filtration to happen. It is a gravity-fed system, so much like the Brita filters, you put water into a top section, it filters through and goes into a collection reservoir at the bottom. So in that respect, they're very similar. One of the biggest differences is the fact that the filters on these actually have other properties, and also the container itself, which is actually pretty important. Because you're actually storing water, it can be affected by things like daylight, which has UV, etc., all that kind of stuff in, and can actually speed up the process of bacteria forming. So with these devices, they're actually made of stainless steel, so there's no actual daylight that gets into the water section to actually contaminate or speed up that contamination process. Anyway, I've waffled on way too long. Let's get this thing out of the box and see what it's all about. First of all, we'll take a look at the packaging and see what the manufacturer says, and then we'll go through, put it all together. So first of all, from the front, as you can see here, this is the SS Drinking Water Gravity Filter, and reading off the front there, so bottled water quality on tap in your own home, which potentially could save you thousands if you're one of those people that goes out and buys bottled water all the time. And obviously as well, this is a lot kinder to the environment. You can reuse your cups as you would normally at home. You don't have to go out and buy plastic bottles all the time, so that's definitely a thumbs up. Also, we get long life filters. Now, if you're coming from the Brita filter side of things, the filters on these things last massive amounts longer. Anything between 10 times or more. They are slightly more expensive, but again, they do filter more pollutants out of the water. So there is a cost outlay to begin with, but certainly in the long run, you will actually save money over Brita. So it's this on there, simple to install, use and maintain, and yeah, again, because it's stainless steel, there's very little you need to do. Periodically, maybe once a month, you can flush the system out, rinse it all down, that kind of thing, clean out the filters, or even replace them should you need to. Although, realistically, depending on what filters you get, you may find not having to actually replace or do anything with the filters for months on end, so that is definitely a plus. Another good thing, no power required. So if you're looking into slightly more elaborate systems, maybe a system where it actually boils the water or reverse osmosis, those kinds of things, generally those devices tend to be powered. So this doesn't need any power at all. So again, you can use it in your home, doesn't need to be near a plug socket. And also if you're traveling or in the event of a kind of national emergency and there's no power and all the utilities are off, you can still carry on using this without any power needed whatsoever. And lastly, it says on there, over 185 years of experience, a proven brand you can trust. So British Berkefeld, I'm going to get this name wrong loads of times, I do apologise in advance, is kind of like a sub-company or a kind of like a following on from Doulton, which is a well-known company here in the United Kingdom, Royal Doulton. We've probably all heard of it, and you've seen ceramics and things like that made from it, which essentially is where this is kind of all coming from. This all really boils down to the filtration, which are made from ceramics, which again, we'll take a look at a little bit later on. Looking on the other side of the box goes through some of the more key features on there and also the directions for use, etc. So you've got a high efficiency filter with 99.99% of filtration for bacteria, cysts, and all those kinds of nasty particles. Also got long life value for money filters, etc. Antibacterial formulation. So the filters actually, depending on which filters you get again, this particular version comes with the ATC Super Sterisil ones, which, yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, but essentially they're really good filters. They do actually have silver impregnated into the ceramic, which gives you that extra level of antibacterial protection, which for water is obviously a good thing. Another good thing, which actually some people do ask as well, I've seen this in comments and questions on other water filters, does it actually take out the good minerals? Well, the easy answer is no, it doesn't. Anything which is actually beneficial to health or is deemed as being a healthy mineral actually goes through this. So you don't have to worry about your water being completely stripped of any nutrients. There are nutrients still in here, which is one of the things which you do miss out, I think, on some of the reverse osmosis or other types of water filters which use the kind of boiling method. They do work in different ways, but some of those do actually strip out some of the actual valuable nutrients. Moving around to the back of the box, it tells you basically what's inside it. So again, no connections required, so it's not required to be connected to a water dispenser or water tap, doesn't need to be plumbed in, doesn't need mains electricity or a USB power pack, anything like that. And it tells you about your filter candle grade. Now when they talk about filters on these devices, they refer to them as being candles. You'll see why later when we take them out of the box, because essentially they are pretty much candle shaped. So this one actually has the options of having either the original Sterisil candles, the Super Sterisil candles, or the ATC Super Sterisil candles. So they all have different longevity, lifespans, filtrations, and water throughputs, all that kind of stuff. So again, it's down to finding the ones which work best for you. So if you want to get rid of the most pollutants, then realistically you're looking at a filter which is going to have a slower rate. So it takes longer for the water to actually pass through the filtration medium, which I guess kind of makes sense. Also, you may find if you want to actually remove other things in your water, such as possibly fluoride, which a lot of people are concerned with, and things like arsenic, then you can actually get other filters which will combine that as well. This one, the ATC Super Sterisil, doesn't actually remove fluoride. Well, it kind of does to a very small amount, but if you want to remove up to 95% or more of the fluoride in your water, then there are specific filters for that particular task. You can actually use ones from Berkey as well, which they have their PF2 filters, which you can screw on and use with your existing candles. So yeah, there's tons and tons of flexibility for the system. I seriously advise taking a deep dive, go down the rabbit hole and look at all the options available. It's kind of mind-blowing, and you do find some sites are kind of conflicting advice. We will try and get to the bottom of these things. We will be doing some more scientific tests as we go through the process of actually using this, and we will be doing regular updates to let you know what our findings are, what we think of it and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to find out more and actually keep in touch with us, then click on the subscribe button and chime icon and you'll be notified of future video releases. So that's enough about the packaging and me waffling on. Let's take a look and see what we actually get for the money. Now, talking of money, this particular version, which is kind of like a 6 litre or kind of like a gallon for US measurements, in the UK you're going to be looking at paying roughly around about £130 for this, which does seem quite a lot of money if I'm completely honest with you. Obviously the Brita filters you can pick up even sometimes on a sale for kind of like a £5. So yeah, there is a huge outlay, or at least your initial outlay, but obviously because this is stainless steel, it's going to be more robust, it's going to be considerably longer lasting than plastics. And again, because Brita filters are made of plastic, some people just don't like that plasticky taste in their water. So using a stainless steel device is going to be better for you in the long run. We were actually very lucky. I went over to the Doulton site. We'll put links for that in the video description. We're not an affiliate or anything, but we will put links for it. They actually had this on sale. It was a kind of a ex-demo unit, or basically a shop soiled one. Well, soiled is probably the wrong name, but this was basically reduced to half price. So we picked this up for about £62, I think it was, which, yeah, is a fantastic deal. There are also other companies which make very similar devices like this, perhaps not with the same branding on it, maybe not Berkey or British Berkefeld or whatever it's called, but you can get very, very similar devices which are essentially built kind of the same for around about £60–70. So do look around, you will find some great bargains. If we do find some bargains in between me filming this and actually posting the video, we'll put it in the video description, and also if you find any, please do let us know, and let us know in that comment section. So first of all, in the box we get our instruction leaflet, how to assemble it, all that kind of stuff. I'll try and get you a close-up on that. Essentially it's pretty straightforward. So you've got some main components. You've got obviously the lid on the top, which yeah, keeps things out of it. You've got the main container on the top. You've got the filters, which go into the top section. And because it's gravity fed, obviously it makes sense. You put water in the top, the filters are there. The water passes through the filters and contains into the storage unit at the bottom. And on the bottom there is a spigot or tap, so you can actually release the water from the container into your cup or kettle or beverage holder, whatever it may be. So that's the instructions. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Now I have actually taken this out just to confirm what was actually in the unit, so we'll go through this. So the top section is the lid, as you can see. So let's go through the rest of the components. So what we've got, this is our base unit. As you can see, there is a hole drilled out at the bottom there, so that is for your spigot or tap to be attached to. And inside, essentially, it is yeah, stainless steel container. Now, this is really good, obviously, for cleaning purposes and being kind of non-porous. Anything which is in there, any sediment or anything which might potentially build up, although that's less likely, obviously, on the bottom section, but on the top section, definitely. If you're putting in water, which is perhaps from a stream or a pond or a spring of some sort, then obviously there is going to be some sediment in there which obviously hasn't passed through but is remained in the water in suspension, so nice and easy to clean out again. Stainless steel, all you need is kind of like a sponge or a cloth, and pretty much most of that you can clean and rinse out very, very easily. So that is the bottom section. As you can see, yeah, we've got the hole there ready for the tap to be attached to. Also you've got your label on the front there saying the manufacturer. And there's also a sticker on there as well, so you can write on there when your filter has actually been installed. So that way you know roughly when it was installed and kind of when it's time to change it. Although realistically, for most people, you'll know when it's time to start changing the filter when the water flow seems to be a little bit less. You're not getting so much water coming through filtration. So you can either replace the filter, or in most cases with these ceramic type filters, you can actually take them under the tap, give them a wipe off and remove the exterior sediment, and continue using them for as long as you can. For some of the filters that have the internal carbon as well, the carbon filters, then those do have a slightly more limited lifespan because of bacteria, etc. It's just one of those natural occurring things. So yeah, write your installation date on the sticker there so you've got a good idea of when you installed it. This section is the top section, so this fits in into the unit there, so pretty straightforward. It makes a great deal of sense. And obviously the lid then will go onto the top. So actually quite a nice sized unit if you're putting this onto like a counter in your kitchen, or maybe if you're camping or you've got an RV, that kind of thing. Quite easy to store and easy to use. One thing that you might want to pay attention to is actually where the spigot is going to be at the bottom of the tap. Obviously you really do need it raised up slightly to get it into a position so you can actually fill up cups, etc. Or if you want to, you could just turn it around so the tap kind of hangs off the back of a desk or shelf or unit or wherever you place it, but obviously do bear that in mind. Now some of you are probably thinking, but it's going to scratch surfaces. Well, they've thought of that, and there is actually a rubber base or rubberized base, so you can place that onto there, and then that protects any surfaces and also stops it kind of skipping around. So looking back into the top section, you'll see on this particular model, this is one of the slightly newer models which only has the 2 holes drilled in it. So this is a 2 candle model. There are some which have 4. Some of the older ones had 4, but they had rubber bungs in there as well to kind of, you could plug it up. Essentially how it works is the more candles you have, the higher the filtration rate. So it makes sense that each candle will last up to a certain amount of time. So 400 gallons, 600 gallons, that kind of thing. So that's like 1600 litres. The filtration rate is a certain amount of obviously litres per hour or litres per minute. So the more candles you have, the more flow you have. If you've just got a smaller family, maybe there's 2 of you, then the 2 candle version is probably okay. If there's a larger family and you're filling things up on a more regular basis, then you may want to go for the 4 candle version. Again, we'll go through this, we'll do some updates and let you know what the kind of the fill rate is like, the flow rates, all that kind of stuff, and our general usage. Here, as a family of 4, we do drink quite a lot of water, obviously kettle water as well for tea. We're drinking tea and coffee, so there's a strong possibility we'll be using this to make tea and coffee, and obviously experience the nicer tasting drinks, which is always a benefit. But again, depends on the individual's usage, but we'll try and update you to give you some idea of numbers as time goes on. So that is that section out of the way. The next bit is the actual filters and the spigot itself. So in this box here, we've got the ceramic filters. You see you get 2 included in the box. And in this section here, we have the spigots and all the connections. So if we break this open, so there is the tap itself, just a simple plastic tap. Now again, some people might prefer to not use a plastic tap, they might want to use a metal one. Totally understandable. So if you wanted to get a metal one, you can do. They're about £10. You can pick them up on places like eBay, Amazon, etc. We've already bought a metal one, so we will be using that. But it does come with this plastic one, and you've got rubber washers on there. So essentially, you put a rubber washer on there, pass it through the hole in the front, put a rubber washer on the back, and then just tighten up the screw on the back to hold it all in place. And then obviously when you want to get a drink out, then you can just turn the tap and water will flow. Pretty straightforward. Not the particularly well made of plastics, it's a little bit on the kind of flimsy side, but certainly will get the job done. Personally, I'd prefer to go with the metal one. So what else do we get actually in the kit? So there is actually, for the top, there is a little handle with a screw on the bottom there. So if you wanted to, again, like I said before, ideally you probably want to leave that open to let air flow through, but you can, if you want to, attach the handle on the top. It isn't a complete seal, so there is a slight air gap around there. So air will get in, but obviously the flow rate is going to be a little bit faster if you don't have that plugged in the top. Again, personal preference as far as that is concerned. Next up, we've got the filter candles. So as you can see, it's kind of candle looking, kind of, and on the bottom there, it tells you what filter it actually is. So this one is the ATC Super Serasteel, which is 8647, and it got the Doulton branding on there, etc. So what you do is you put this into the unit itself. There is a rubber bung which goes on the bottom there, and then there is just a simple screw, and that would be how it's all attached. So let's put that actually inside now. Now I'm going to put this in. You really should clean these before you actually use them. So what they suggest to do is to run it under the tap, obviously clean any kind of ceramic dust or anything which is on the outside. You can, if you want to, you can prime them as well. So in order to prime them, all you do is put it underneath the tap, put the sealing ring there, and use water pressure to try and pressurize some water through the filter. Not entirely necessary for the ones with a single opening. If you've got a filter which has got a dual opening, so an opening on both ends, and those generally the ones that tend to have to be primed more. But yeah, down to the individual really. Essentially, when you use this for the first time, the first lot of water which you actually use, you shouldn't use for drinking. Use it for kind of watering the plants or whatever. Don't use it for drinking. So let it filter through one complete cycle first of all. Once that's done, then you can go ahead and use it as normal palatable drinking water. So to install these into the unit, all we do is the rubber bung there over the top. Then you can grab the container, and you've got the 2 holes there. So literally put the candle in through, and then you should have your kind of threaded section coming out through the bottom, and you can just hold that in place and tighten it up. Sorry about the noise. So once it's done, just make sure it's nice and tight, just kind of finger tight. You don't need anything really more than that. And then that is the candle in position. So you kind of get the idea now. The water will go in here. The ceramic exterior there, and also the kind of carbon inserts which are inside will filter the water going down through. then you get a stream of water coming through this section, which then collects into the bottom pot. So yeah, pretty decent. It's actually very simple in how it works. Again, this idea was originally conceived kind of back in the 1800s, so it's a very simple but elegant solution to water filtration. So Kath's gone off to clean some of the filters, and I'm going to install my steel beverage dispenser. So this we picked up again off Amazon pretty cheaply, and essentially it is the same thing, a spigot or tap, so we can use this with our water filter. So again, pretty simple to do. You've got a selection of kind of washers and grommets, etc. And there is a protective section on there, so we'll just peel that off. And as you can see, so you've got rubber washers in there. And essentially what you're trying to do is to just take up as much of the slack on there as possible. Oh, actually there is a nut on there, should take it off first. So that's the kind of sealing nut. So we'll move our washer ring there right to the front, and this then can go on, kind of screws on. It's quite a tight silicone actually on there. So that is how you'd have it for the outside section, which will then press against the outlet there, and then once that's in place, then you can put on the other section. So let's go ahead and do that now. Put that through there, and we'll do the same on the back. And we spin that round, so now we've got that kind of thing. So hopefully the camera's going to focus on that so you can see that. So there is the silicone washer there. Then after the silicone washer, we can then put on the angled washer. Again, depending on which one you get, yours may be slightly different looking from this, but the principle is the same. So we're just going to go ahead and put that on there nice and tightly. So now you can see there is the washer on the top. And last of all, we've got the actual bolt. So we'll put that on the back and just screw it up, which hopefully you can see. So there is a bolt on there. And then we just need to tighten it up until it provides a good seal. Again, you don't really need any tools for this, you can just do it by hand. I'm just going to spin this round until it gets tight enough. And it's roughly the right angle. We'll have to take another turn. Yeah. So that's nice and tight now. So now we've got our nice metal tap on there. Nice and easy, just a quarter turn tap. So that's going to make it pretty obvious for most people. So that's going to be on, and that should be off because it's just a simple valve in there. Excellent stuff. So yeah, let's get the filters ready. Okay, so that is the unit assembled. As you've probably seen from the slightly amusing B-roll, we've cleaned off the candle filters. They've all been installed. So if we take a look inside now, I've actually put the stopper on the lid as well. So looking inside now, you can see the candles are installed. We've obviously got our spigot on the bottom. So the instructions now say what we should do is to fill this up. So we'd fill it to as much as you can possibly can on the top, so covering the top of the actual candles themselves. Let that whole thing filter all the way through, then get rid of that water. So that's the first thing to do, just standard filter, get rid of all the water. Then the next one to do after you've done that is to leave the tap in the on position, then fill the top up and just let the whole thing flush through until you see the water coming out of the tap being crystal clear. You may find, because obviously they're ceramic filters, there's some debris in actually the creation process, etc, etc. So you want to let all that flush through. So essentially what you're going to do is to fill this twice. First time, just regular fill, basically waste the water. Then do the next one and leave the tap open until that's completely drained through. You may find, depending on the filters and the quality of the water, you might want to run that through again after with it left open. It's going to be down to the individual. So we're going to put this actually outside now so we can just let the water drain away into the garden, making use of the water. and we'll try and get you some B-roll of that, a little bit of music possibly, and you can watch water dripping. Then when that's done and we're ready to come back, we filtered it through a couple of times, we will then do a final taste test and see if this is actually worth the money. So we'll be back after this. So I've got my hose pipe, we're going to fill this up outside. That's a little bit better. You can still see that is straight from the tap, and there's bits and pieces in there already. So anyway, we'll let that filter through, and so you know roughly how long it takes to filter through for the first time. So currently it is 15:18. Or 15:19 on 24th of June, and we'll see how long it takes. So play the waiting game now. Okay, so we're back and it is the next day. So we've gone through all the process of cleaning out the filters, running water through, etc, etc, and I'm pleased to say that we finally ended up with crystal clear water, which you've possibly seen from some of the B-roll already. Sadly, the glass itself that it's in isn't the cleanest, but it's it's hygienic. There's a couple of smears on the side of the glass, so if you've seen that in the B-roll, I do apologise, but it is what it is. The water itself is fantastic, it really is, and quick taste test, which obviously we've been doing already, but it is really, really nice. H2O. Very, very nice. So the taste of the water is actually completely different from what I was expecting. It's a very odd thing. It doesn't taste like the Brita water did. That seemed to have a kind of like an overly clean taste to it. I'm not sure if that even makes sense, but this just tastes like what I imagine water should actually taste like. It tastes great. It's got no bits in it. Fantastic for making tea and coffee. Now, for us here in Bristol, the United Kingdom, our water isn't particularly great. It's quite hard water. We get a lot of lime scale and stuff like that. And if you have a cup of tea or coffee, if it's just water from the tap, once it's been boiled, you put it into a drink, and there are bits in there, and when you get to the end of the cup there's kind of all kinds of not congealed, but you know, like scummy kind of bits in the tea and coffee. Now Kath and myself, we've been using this in our kettle today. The cups are so much cleaner. It is literally night and day difference. So as far as that's concerned, the taste as well, the taste of tea and coffee completely transformed. It tastes like a completely different drink. It's almost like you've changed tea bags. It's ridiculous how different it actually does taste. So how long does it take to filter the water? Some of you are probably asking, and it's one of the questions I had myself. So this is the kind of like 1 gallon version, the SS, and it takes roughly about 4 hours. So it's roughly doing somewhere around about 1 litre per hour. So obviously, depending on your water usage, if you need more water or you want it quicker, then you might be worth looking at other versions of this. There is a travel version. This I think is the portable. Again, I'll put the links in the video description. There's bigger and there's huge versions available, like 4 gallons. So there's really big ones. So if you've got a large family, or you just want to keep a lot of water on the go, then that might be worth doing. As far as it seems at the moment for us, with our general water usage for making lots of tea and coffee, for drinks in the morning, for taking our nutrients and our supplements, all that kind of stuff, absolutely fine at the moment it seems. So time will tell whether or not we should have gone for a slightly bigger one, but as far as I'm concerned at the moment, it's working out really, really well. So like I said earlier in the video, if you can remember that far back, this has been a long one. There are other filters you can get for this, so depending again what your needs are, what your kind of requirements are going to be for your water, whether you want to remove fluoride, whether you're happy just with a general filtration, that kind of stuff. Different filters for different types. Again, you can use the Berkey filters if you want to. The threads in there, or the kind of the holes that are in there, are essentially universal. So you don't have to go with the British Berkefeld models. You don't have to go with the Berkey ones. If you find other ones, maybe on the internet, eBay, Amazon, etc., etc., then essentially you can use pretty much anything you like. The choice is down to you, obviously down to price and also longevity. This particular filter setup, they do say you probably want to change every 6 months. but that is dependent on the water, obviously. If you're putting in pretty much clean water anyway from your residential taps, if it's not too bad, then you're going to get a lot more life out of them. If you're putting in things like pond water, they do recommend if you're using actual stream or pond water in an emergency situation, use something like a Mike's Unboxing t-shirt, put it over the top and actually use this as a kind of primary filter to get rid of all the larger sediment and lumps out of the water, which obviously makes sense. And it's going to mean that the filters have to do less of the legwork to actually kind of take all the nasties out of your water, all the things like the cysts, bacteria and all that kind of stuff, which you don't particularly want to drink. So ultimately, if you're one of those people which is a little bit paranoid these days, and maybe you're constantly washing your hands and all that kind of sterile stuff, then maybe it's time to start considering what you're actually putting in your body rather than what's actually on your body. Obviously, this is going to be a healthier way of drinking water. Water in itself is a healthy thing to drink anyway, but if you can remove most of the sort of contaminants and pollutants that are in it, even in the best of waters, there are going to be contaminants in there. I am looking forward actually at some point in the near future of doing some actual proper scientific tests, maybe actually even sending some water away straight from the tap and actually after the filtration and see what it comes back, see what they say. That would be some really nice proof, but there's hundreds and hundreds of sites, websites, YouTube channels, etc., which have done the same sort of thing, and pretty much universally they all come through saying that this is probably one of the best ways of filtering water, and ultimately it tastes really good, so that's a very nice thing to have. So let me know what you think about this in the video comment section below. Is this something you consider for yourself? Is it a little bit too big and bulky, a little bit too utilitarian looking? Let me know, I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are. Obviously, if you want to check out more details about these kind of filter devices, there will be links in the video description for you to check out. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, for what we paid for it, which was a fantastic deal, again, I'll post that in the links as well, I would certainly recommend this over a Brita. Britas, they get the job done, kind of, and you get the kind of impression that you're doing what you can or getting the best filtration. But it seems if you just scratch the surface a little bit further, look into what else is on the market, there are fantastic other options available, such as this one, which will do much better for you, will actually cost you less in the long run, and possibly give you much nicer tasting water. So I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.